All right, bang. Today is Tuesday. It's February 15th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Here with Chief, back in studio. First time in weeks.
I know. I feel like I haven't seen you in this entire year.
Yeah, I know the audience probably didn't realize because we were here last week for opioids, but that was a couple weeks ago. So
yeah, we recorded that early because you were going to be gone. I was going to be gone. So
it's good to be back here with you.
Familiar space here.
Yes.
Yeah.
How are you? How you been?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I've made a decision for my life, though.
What's that?
I think I'm done with vodka.
Really?
Yeah, I can't sleep at night when I have it, and I feel like my heart has been racing.
So I saw your tweet.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of people think that it was due to the soda.
I am shocked, or I shouldn't even say that. The amount of morons on the internet that think it's the soda, it's club soda. There's no caffeine. It's sparkling water. What are we talking about?
I don't know. That stuff kind of fucks me up though too.
The sparkling water?
No, it's not. It's because it's a little different. I feel like it's got, or maybe I'm thinking of.
I guzzle
Club.
I guzzle LaCroix, like guzzle them, and I have no issues. So there's no I have more sparkling water than most people have in a year. I do that like every week.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, but I'm done because I'm not feeling good after the Super Bowl. And you drafted this for worst days of the year. The first Monday after the Super Bowl. Coming outside today, it's like 12 degrees. There's no sports really for a month. I'm hurting from having vodka sodas. The internet is full of idiots who think the soda has caffeine in it. It's just like one thing after another. And we got this fucking Canadian truckers protest going on too. So that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, that's the topic of the day. Until the red ed drops, and then you'll have to come back in on vodka.
Are we dropping a red ed?
No, I wish so.
We got to do
sales that. They'll never give that to us, but
let's do it on our own. I got some beverage industry connections.
Yeah, let's do it. But all right, I hope you feel better. I hope have a fucking 7-Up or whatever the hell you got to do. Well, maybe that would feed into the people's to the people's narrative, I guess. But before we get into the whole Canada thing, because I think a lot of people are like, "Whoa, what's going on there?" Especially me. I feel like I've been shut off to the world for the last 2 weeks. Like I don't know what's going on.
This story does not get a lot of mainstream coverage. I'll say that. So it's not like
it's been on Twitter a lot though.
It's on Twitter, but to get to like the base of it and what's actually happening, it requires some effort. It's not like you can just flip on, CNN and or your normal news stations and get the answers. So, it requires a little bit of effort. So don't feel like you're missing something that everybody's in on. I think this is it was an education for me reading into it. So.
And like I said, I was on the West Coast it's like it really is another planet over there.
Oh yeah,
like with the time change,
they're like their own country.
It truly is.
Yeah,
like I just don't know what's going on anymore.
I think California is still like the 5th largest economy in the world by themselves.
Oh really?
Something like 5th, 8th, something like that.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Before we really get into it, though, we do want to talk about ChevyDriveChicago.com. Blackhawks fans, they have a special giveaway just for you. Your local Chevy dealers are giving away one Patrick Kane signed jersey. Entering is easy. Head to ChevyDriveChicago.com to enter to win. And if you're looking to drive what Kane and Taze drive, see your local Chevy dealer today. Chevy is also a great spot to get your car kind of tuned up. Get the brakes checked and whatnot because it's winter. Like this is the time where your car starts to really rumble and everything like that.
I said it in the ad yesterday. I think taking your girlfriend's or your boyfriend's car to get it all tuned up, great Valentine's Day gift. I really, truly believe that. That's something that you'll use, something that they'll appreciate. You'll use it for 3,000 miles or however long it takes before your next oil change. Little things like that go a long way. They're thoughtful. Nobody thinks to do them because they don't think they're romantic. They are.
Yep, absolutely. So head to ChevyDriveChicago.com to enter to win once again. And like I said, if you're looking to drive what Kane and Taze drive, go see your local Chevy dealer today. You could type in your address and everything like that, and it shows you the local dealer. So go check out ChevyDriveChicago.com and go grab a Chevy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what's going on in Canada, Chieftain?
Canada.
Also, time out. We do got to tell a story about the bathroom attendant.
Bathroom attendant. Oh, at the bar last night. So we were, a guy probably a little bit younger than me, and I walk in. His name was Jeff, and Jeff. I walk into the bathroom, and we're in the lounge area of the Barstool bar. And he goes, "Hey, what's up, Chief?" And I'm like, "Oh, hey, like I did not expect like this guy to know who I was. And he's like, you know, so whatever, we're chatting on the way out and wash my hands, whatever, like small talk. He goes, so what's your name? And I'm like, it's Ryan. And he goes, oh, okay. And I like clicked to me that I'm like, do you just call everybody Chief? And he's like, yeah, it's just like it's a nickname throw. I'm like, oh, okay. So it was just like, I was like, walked in the bathroom. I'm like, we're in our own bar. I'm feeling like 1%, like a little famous, like this guy, like taking, you know, hey, Chief, right this way. No, he just calls everybody that. No idea who the fuck I was, and walked out a little bit, you know. My ego took a little bit of a hit.
It was very funny.
Yeah.
But all right, sorry. The
Canadian truckers. Yes. So, you know, it's the year 2022. So as you can imagine, all roads lead back to the vaccine, and that's what this is ultimately about. So, so in January of this year, it's really both countries, United States and Canada, put out a mandate that if you're a trucker and you are crossing the border, you either have to have the vaccine or you have to be tested and then also quarantined for 2 weeks coming over the border. Now, if you're a trucker, you can't quarantine for 2 weeks. You know, like you don't hit any of your deliveries. There's just nothing you can do. So like that mandate and that rule against the truckers is just untenable. And I can sympathize with truckers being like, why the fuck do I need to get this vaccine when I'm just in my truck all day by myself anyways? So that was like the impetus of why these people were all pissed off, all these truckers. So you see this mandate, and it started with a protest of the mandate, okay? But really it kind of evolved into, they're calling it like the Freedom Convoy, and it's evolved into this thing that's really more about just general displeasure with the Canadian government relative to COVID policy. Now they've been a little bit more, I would say, strict or draconian on their COVID response last 2 years than the United States has had. So we think, you know, we have a pretty, you know, tough in Chicago where you have to have your Vax pass and, you know, to get into any bars and this and that. And Canada, they will do like house checks to like make sure like, oh, you're coming back from somewhere. Well, you have to be quarantined for 2 weeks, kind of regardless. You know, I'm not up to date on exactly all of their policies, but I know that they're doing like they'll send the police to your house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. To do like a check to make sure you're still at your house while you're supposed to be quarantined. So it's like very like invasive. And so that's what it kind of turned into. And now this thing, it started in Western Canada, like these truckers. And I would say that particularly Alberta, probably has the most conservative thinking part of the population in Canada. So that's where a lot of these people originated from, but it's really all truckers from all parts of Canada. And there's the numbers vary, but there are thousands of people convened onto Ottawa, and they started this process on like January 28th. They started going, and it was very well organized. So it was done through social media, Facebook, and there's been talks that, you know, they had former, you know, Canadian military people involved who like really understand organization, logistics, all of this and that, because they were able to, this is like the most organized protest I think I've ever seen. Usually when you see protests, they're like kind of spur of the moment. They're kind of, you know, a lot of times people don't necessarily know why they're there. They're not there for the same cause. This seems way different than that. They have like supply hubs. They have fundraising, which we'll get to in a minute. And like they timed it, you know, so they organized as many as, I've seen numbers as high as 2,700 trucks and thousands of people went to Ottawa, and then they went to these various border crossings, specifically the one that they've shut down. I think they opened it up again last night. That would have been Sunday night into Monday morning, is this bridge that connects Detroit to Windsor, Canada, where 28% of all economic trade that between the United States and Canada go through that port, go through or over that bridge rather. So it's a big fucking border crossing, and it's like a big problem for the economy if it's shut down. So if we're, the United States and Canada, places all over the world are having all these supply chain issues anyways. Now you throw this in there, you cannot cross the border there. And then now they've set up ones in Western Canada and then other places like in Quebec and other places in Ontario too. But right there at that Detroit-Windsor border crossing is where like the impetus of this thing is, other than Ottawa. And have you seen videos of this in Ottawa?
I don't know. The only video I saw was there was a bunch of people going nuts singing, "We're not going to take it."
Okay.
Did you see that?
I didn't see that one. No, yeah. I didn't see that. But in Ottawa, like if you just kind of watch videos of like the street level on the ground, I think if I lived in Ottawa, I would fucking hate these people at this point, because they're so loud. They're so obnoxious. You can't really get to work. They have to reroute the buses. There's crazy delays. And it's been going on for weeks. So I think that it would be, I should just say, like, I'm very sympathetic to the right to protest. I think that is like kind of a fundamental right, and this has been a peaceful protest, but it's the reality of the situation. Also, if you're a citizen of Ottawa, you have to just be pulling your hair out, because it's like there's no real end in sight to this thing. And, there's been all types of attempts to kind of smear this movement as, even Trudeau's the prime minister, called them all sorts of like, liking them to Nazis and things like that. It's like, it's gotten like insane. He fled the country, or fled the city rather. Did you hear that?
No, I did not.
Because of security measures. When the trucker first came, they got him and his family out. They had to be like evacuated because these truckers were supposedly going to be so dangerous to Trudeau's personal safety. And it's like, what? Then like that was like blown out of proportion. But they've been trying to like demonize these people who are frustrated specifically with him and the Canadian government. But it's like there's like two sides to this thing. And it's like there are thousands of people protesting this across the country. And now they're saying like the movement is also kind of going into other countries. Like France has had like a little bit of a trucker protest. New Zealand had it. People are worried that the United States, like, our truckers are going to start doing it. And people are I think people are getting to the point where they're just so fed up with everything that they're being fed by the governments and by media and by everything else, where it's just like and this is like the flashpoint, like, enough. Like you're going to make us quarantine so we can't do our job. And we don't, just because we don't want this vaccine, which, there's, plenty of debate around that anyways. And it's gotten like very, very hostile there. And they've kind of done everything that they can do to stop these truckers. They raised $10 million on GoFundMe. Do you know that?
Yeah, I did know that.
Okay.
And then GoFundMe blocked it, right?
It got up to 6.2 million, and they blocked it. And it was like, we'll release 1 million. So they really, because they're like, we don't know what this is going towards. Like, we heard this is violent, this and that. And it was like, hey, like, that's a bunch of bullshit. So then they got pressured into releasing 1 million. And then they just decided, after they got pressure from the Canadian government themselves, like, we're pulling this. Then GoFundMe was going to be like, we're just keeping that money. We're going to donate it to a charity of our choice. And people freaked out. And so GoFundMe returned the money to the donors. Then there's another site, which I had never heard of.
That is insane for a GoFundMe to think that they could just do that.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Like for them to think that they couldn't return the money is
I think
bananas.
It's insane for them to, to be this platform and be like, hey, that's like almost like a freedom of speech type of situation to me. Like, I'm voting with I'm supporting, that should be between the cause.
Sure, yes.
And
now there is
person.
like an element too where like if someone was funding like an atomic bomb or something like that, like
sure,
there is like some.
But it's clear that that's not what this is.
Yeah. I'm not saying. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, like, I don't think the KKK should be allowed to raise money through GoFundMe.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, there's definitely an argument there.
Sure.
But to me, that's like black and white. Is like for them to try to donate it to something else is insane.
Crazy. So then they return the money to the individual people, and there's another site that I had never heard of called Give Send Go, and I guess they're out of Delaware. I don't know where GoFundMe is out of, but now I think like 4 states are looking into like suing 4 states in the United States. The different governments are looking into suing GoFundMe over their actions regarding this. So it's like, even though it's a Canadian cause and the money is going to Canada, it is our First Amendment right to be able to donate to a peaceful protest. So they're like, now like GoFundMe is might end up in a legal battle against the United States government. So like, that's interesting. So anyways, Give, Send, Go, there's like another $6 million raised. Canadian government tries to do the same thing to them, being like, hey, you better shut this down. Like, don't let them do it. And they kind of came out and were like, yeah, you know what? Like, we hear you, but we just don't think that that's the right thing to do. So fuck off. And but then Ontario, somehow the Ontario government was able to freeze the accounts coming from Give, Send, Go to that, to the different causes. Also, they had 137,000 subscribers in a Facebook group about this cause. You know what Facebook did about that?
They probably got rid of the group.
Deleted the group.
Yeah.
Deleted the group. So it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, there are supposed to be, and we've had this conversation going back to our radio days about what to do with some of these tech companies who, it's like they're private companies, but they're the new public square, and you should have freedom of speech. And they're like, well, it's our platform, which I agree with. They're like, my brain is in a pretzel about this, but I don't think that you should be allowed to limit what people can say on that platform, on those platforms. I just don't, or their ability to organize. I just think that it's fundamentally like against our First Amendment, but it's private property because it's a private company. Yeah, so I don't know.
And we've had different conversations about that.
Like,
yeah. I know you're pretty strongly on like, hey, say whatever. I'm like, hey, if you're posting blatant, not misinformation, blatant fake news, I think that is like, you got to do something about that.
And Jon Stewart had a thing this weekend. Did you see that?
But I made sure like the differentiator there is I try to make clear.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like
but
someone
it's a very difficult thing to make.
Correct. But someone altering and photoshopping a tweet to get a rise out of people or using it out of, you know what I mean?
Oh, like a deep fake.
Yes,
or,
like that's what I mean. Like that's what I mean where it's like, that's
I kind of think, I think that those things should be allowed, but if you get caught, you get charged with fraud.
Sure.
Okay. So so you still have the freedom of speech, but you're not allowed to commit fraud.
Sure.
And that could, again, I'm not a legal expert, but that to me would seem like a solution where everybody kind of wins. But I guess you could make the argument that, well, the damage is already done and not enough people will know about the case that like this person got charged with fraud because of this.
Sure.
Okay. But back to the Give, Send, Go. Today, somebody hacked their servers, and so the funds are frozen, the servers are hacked, and they've released all the donor names. Like they've doxed all the people who donated to this cause.
Wow.
So that is an invasion of privacy too. And I don't know what happens to that person or who's behind that, but it's like, it just seems like they're doing everything they possibly can to stop these people from doing a peaceful protest, which is undoubtedly annoying. It's hurting some people. Like if there are people who are, in the auto industry in Michigan who, plants got shut down because they didn't have supplies. Now, some of that could be from just normal supply chain issues that was happening before the truckers thing, but this certainly could contribute. And if you're a person who's like trying to support a family and you're, working your first shift guy at an auto plant and you can't work because of this, that I would be fucking furious with those people. And so I see kind of both sides to this situation, but fundamentally people have a right to protest. And as long as, they're technically not really breaking any law. Like this is their right. And they're blocking Parliament and they're doing all these different things. And then it's like,
is it to block highways though?
No one has seen what?
Like that's their right to block
a
highway.
I think that is public property. I
see. That's where I just don't get it.
What don't you get?
Like where it's just how I understand the right to protest, but to block a highway, I don't understand like how that's illegal. To be quite honest.
Well, yeah, how it's legal to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's they would say that now Canada does not have the same Bill of Rights that we have. They call it something different. It's fundamentally very similar, but they don't have the exact same. But I think you could argue that this is a peaceful protest. People block streets all the time for all different kinds of causes.
Yeah,
and that's the other thing that's driving me fucking crazy about this whole issue too, is that all the people who were, I would say on the right side of the aisle when there was all the protests going on the last few years about, police actions and George Floyd and this and that, and they're saying, this is unbelievable, these protests, like this is, get the police out there, like bust this thing up, and it's like now those are the same people who are, cheering on the truckers for this protest. So it's like, wait a second, are you for protests or not?
Yeah.
Okay. And that goes with the left too. It's like they just flipped. Like they're cheering on all the people about the various protests across the country in 2020 and 2021, and then this, you see this. Oh, this is a threat to national security. Well, it's like, are you for protests or are you not?
It's peak hypocrisy by both sides.
It drives me fucking crazy. Either you stand for the what is in the Constitution or you don't. So it's why you had to allow people to protest for the causes in 2020, and you have to be okay with this too if you're okay with that, and vice versa.
Yep.
And the hypocrisy on both sides drives me insane. And I don't think that you should be allowed, if people want to give their money to this cause, and it has been proven as a peaceful protest, to force the government into changing policies, then I think that is what, Western culture and Western democracies have been kind of built on, is like these John Locke, ideas about how to set up a more perfect union. And part of that is the freedom of speech. And then when you have these things that, the tech companies kind of take it down, and whether that's social media or it's these fundraising things, I just think that that's wrong. Yeah. And you should be able to have a debate in the public discourse. And now none of this has worked. And, Biden's on the phone with Trudeau, over the weekend saying like, if you better get this thing under control, because now it's really starting to impact, our economy too. And now this morning they've come out and they said that Trudeau, again, the prime minister, did we do the dog walk about him being like the illegitimate son of Castro?
No,
we didn't do that.
I don't think so. I mean, we've done a couple Castro things, so we might have slipped it in somewhere.
But there's it's kind of funny.
Oh yeah,
that because Trudeau's dad was the prime minister of Canada in like the late 60s or 70s, and his mom was very friendly with Fidel, and people speculated a little too friendly. But anyways, so now Trudeau is saying that he's going to use emergency powers in the the Emergency Powers Act, Emergencies Act, to give the government broad powers for 30 days. But he's not expected to call the military in. But he has the right to now. So he could call in the Canadian military to do what with these truckers? Shoot them? Like they're talking about taking away their licenses and doing all these different things, threaten them financially and, what kind of job they have. But now it's like, oh, well, we're using this act that they're using, this Emergency Powers Act. It used to be called the War Act. Whereas like in a time, like they were using like World War II, when it's like, hey, we actually have to all the rubber that you were, buying from wherever, all the lumber, steel, oil, whatever that you were going to use, we actually have to use that because we have to defeat the Nazis in Germany. So that is what like the War Act was, when you were in total war. That's what that thing was from. This act was to replace that, and it just gives you temporary, supposedly, power to kind of almost do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy that it's gotten to this point. So the law defines an emergency as a situation that seriously endangers the lives, health, or safety of Canadians and is of such proportions or nature as to exceed the capacity of the authority of a province to deal with it. So it's like the municipal police, the provincial police in Ontario and these other places. They're like, they're basically Trudeau saying that they can't do anything about this, so the federal government has to step in. But like, does that hold up in court? Like this, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, it seems like seriously endangers the lives, health, or safety of Canadians in such proportions or nature as to exceed the capacity. So, like, whose lives are being risked during a peaceful protest? I don't know. So that's what I mean. It's like kind of a crazy.
And there could be some situation where someone's is, right? We just don't know.
Sure. Like what? Like they're having to get to the hospital and they can't?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Like that's always the number one thing people point at, right?
Of such proportions. So that would mean it's not like a couple people need to get to the hospital, which that would be a tragic situation if you can't get to the hospital because the roads are blocked. That's really fucked up. But I don't know if it requires a War Measures Act.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but it just seems like this is, I don't know, man. Things are going crazy. It just to me, it's just like, to me, it's pretty black and white. And it's just these people on both sides are just so like, they'll just do whatever they have to do to have their side win and say they believe one thing 1 second and change their mind when it suits them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's driving me the most crazy about this. But the fact that they're trying to like steal these donations and things like that, it's just
chaos.
Crazy to me.
Chaos.
Crazy. It is chaos. It is chaotic. And it's like, you know, one of like the 10 things going on right now in the world that are like genuinely like kind of scary, you know? So it always links back. We always talk about that Strauss how it's just like, you never know what the tipping point of some of these things are going to be, but things seem a little upside down to me right now.
Yep. I hear you. It's chaos. That's just the only thing I could say.
Yeah. So I hope it resolves peacefully and, you know, people get what they want. It seems like some of these, but like they haven't made any, you know how like Pritzker came out and was like, hey, we're March 1st. We're rolling back all these different things. And, And, you know, I think Biden's State of the Union is actually March 1st too. So it might be in line with that. And he could announce different measures like, oh, hey, like we beat the vaccine or we beat the virus, like go about your lives kind of thing. But like Canada hasn't announced that they're doing any rollbacks. Like a lot of like New York and California and Illinois and all these different places have. So I don't know what they're doing. It's just, but it is crazy right now.
Yep. All right. Thanks for the lowdown.
The lowdown. Yeah, it's a big lowdown.
Yeah, all right, then we'll cut it right there. Thanks, everybody, for listening. That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to do the Tinder Swindler. If you haven't seen that yet, on Netflix. Wild.
Yeah.
It's like 2 hours, but it's the easiest watch of all time.
It flew by. Yeah. I put it on at 7 o'clock this morning.
Yes.
And it was like, before I never even reached for my phone.
Like
it was that like enthralling.
It was awesome. So go watch the Tinder Swindler. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. Get Dante in here. We're going to shoot the shit on it. So make sure you're caught up to date on that before we move along. And yeah, that's it for today. And also, we're recording this on Monday afternoon. So if something changes,
happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. But if something changes within the time this releases,
we're fucked. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it, everybody. Thank you for listening. We'll see you all tomorrow.